Our job is to help you simplify it, to take all the complexities and boil it down in a way that makes sense, is practical and useful to you. We want you to make wiser decisions with your limited time and money, and as Terry likes to say, get more of what you want and less of what you don't want when it comes to your retirement. So when we look at the current status of Social Security, did you know, contrary to popular belief, that according to law, Social Security can't be insolvent? You know what that, now I see you smiling, you think, well, what do you mean? It is insolvent, isn't it? And all that means is that while it can't disappear, it can be adjusted. It means it has to be adjusted to whatever can be afforded to pay to all the folks that it's obliged to pay. Right now, they haven't made a lot of adjustments. They've moved back retirement age a little bit. That's kind of a popular one politically because they don't have to take the benefit away or reduce the dollar amount, and they kind of just push it back more as it was intended to be near the end of your life expectancy. Okay, so that's kind of an easier one to deal with, and because retirees are some of the biggest voting bloc, this is really a sensitive sort of bombshell to handle if you're a politician. So part of where they haven't chosen to deal with it too much so far. A gentleman I had spoken with was a former manager of the Social Security office. He was from Alabama, and he said it well when he said, Social Security is a gift. And what he meant by that is that it's not something that we are entitled to, even though it goes in the category of entitlements in terms of the spending of the budget. But we can't do we don't have any recourse if we don't receive what our statement said we would receive right now. Okay, that can be changed any time. And so he wants us to think of that way, just to understand that it's going to be whatever it is that they give us when we get that. Okay? So, typically, Social Security is more than a third of total retirement income for many houses. This is another reason why it's really critical that they don't reduce it, the payment levels. About 36% approximately for most retirees is what part of their retirement income Social Security represents. A couple things. Social Security is predictable. It's survivable. What I mean by that is that the payment is the same every month. Goes up a little bit with inflation, and it's survivable, meaning that your spouse can claim benefits on your earnings record. Okay? So look at the importance of planning ahead. Some factors that affect your benefit, basically three predominant ones. Your age when you retire, your earnings history, what you made over your career, and taxes. Social Security is a fairly tax-efficient income, and we can talk about that in a little bit. Important considerations other than those when you're looking at what benefit to take, what are my needs? You know, I'd say that's the overriding consideration. You know, can I continue to work if I wanted to? And what do I need to have coming in every month? Because even though I might like to wait, I might need the extra $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month right now. Of course, your expenses are a big part of that, and then other sources of income that you would have if you are working, if you have income from investments or things of that nature. 3 steps for developing a Social Security strategy. Determine your full retirement age. We'll use this term throughout, maybe refer to it as FRA, typically, just because it's kind of a mouthful if we say it a lot. Estimate your benefits at the time that you would hit that age. Look at will you continue to work, and what happens to my spouse if I pass away, what's her income picture look like? And then develop the plan. Choose which way you're going to go. Looking at full retirement age, for most folks, well, for all of us, it's age 66 to 67 right now. There's a little bit of a range because there's some years in which it's banded 66 in a few months. We'll talk about that. So will I go at full retirement age? Will I retire early? You can retire as early as age 62. Or will I retire at my full retirement or my late retirement age, which is age 70? There's no benefit gained from waiting past age 70. Okay, so never delayed beyond that point. A quick question as we're looking at this, and this is one of the biggest areas to look at when you're looking at your Social Security planning, because it has very strong impact on your benefits that you're getting. How much does Social Security pay your survivors for the benefits you didn't claim while you're waiting to claim benefits later? How much back pay will they give your survivors? Oh, good. Yes, zero, Mr. Martin says. There's no refunds for unclaimed benefits, so you win a Benjamin, sir. All right. That's right, no back pay on unclaimed benefits. So if, heaven forbid, my spouse and I are in a common accident, all the benefits are forfeit entirely. If I was waiting till later to claim benefits and I was age 69, I was going to claim at 70, I pass away, those last 7 years of benefits are forfeit. Okay? There's a little bit of a larger, possibly survivor benefit for her, but no back pay. So, next we have determining your full retirement age. This is the vocabulary portion of the test today, and this is the age at which you receive a full benefit without any kind of a discount for retiring early, no reduction for wages that you earn. Okay? So, how do I determine my full retirement age? Well, if you ever happen to find a Social Security statement, you could look on that one. Those are getting harder and harder to find. They're not really mailing them to you on a regular basis any longer. SSA.gov, have any of you registered on there before? Okay. Definitely, that's the place to go. Set up your account. You can pull up your benefit statement anytime and get your specific numbers, your specific earnings history. It'll also tell you what your full retirement age is. So, if you're born before 1954 or up to 1954, it's pretty easy. Your retirement age is 66. If you were born after 1960, it's pretty easy, or on or after 1960, it's 67. If you're born in the range in between, so from 1954 to 1960, it's a little more complicated. If we were to write it down, it'd look something like this, say, your year of your birth minus 1954. Okay, so let's say I was born in 1959, then I'd have 5, then times 2, and these are months, is 10 months, plus 66. So, 66 and 10 months, for instance, if you're 59, or born in 1959. And you can see that here on the chart. If you can see that chart from back there, I'm not sure how well the visibility is on some of those. Or how acute your eyesight is, one of the two. So basically, every year after 1954 adds 2 months to age 66 for your full retirement age, until over those 6 years, it goes up to 67 at the year 1960 and after. So, a little bit different in there. One thing, Social Security does always operate on a monthly basis, not really an annual basis. So each month that you're early or late for your retirement is prorated in there in terms of your benefits. It's not just 1 year increments. Okay, so we talked about the importance of choosing the right retirement age. And how that impacts your benefits. So, if your full retirement age is 66, you can claim as early as 62, and the benefit is reduced. Now, the chart I gave you in the little one-page, double-sided copy there, that chart's preferable to me because it uses 1,000 at full retirement age. I'm not sure why they chose this particular chart here. So I like the 1,000 because it's easy to understand. It's kind of like 100. The 1,000 at age 62. So this is 1,000 at FRA. At 62 is 750. okay? At 70 is $1,250, right? On your chart there?
1320.
1325,
Yeah, 1320.
1320. Okay. So, this is your range of benefits depending on when you choose to claim. Big difference, right? And when you look at, and this is kind of where the art of your planning comes into play. Basically, you got a 25% discount for retiring early. 30% if your full retirement age is 67. Okay. The discounts are permanent in your benefit. They don't like jump up once you hit 66 if you start at 62. But they do begin earning cost of living adjustments as soon as you start claiming them. Okay, that's something that you can't really quantify. You don't know what inflation or the CPI change will be year to year. Lately, it's been in the 2% neighborhood. So that's a reasonable assumption. So here you have to look at, okay, I could get this at 62, this at 70, you know, what kind of returns, you know, am I receiving on waiting on that money? And the only thing we have to bear in mind is that also while we're contemplating delaying benefits, we have to consider what if the rules change while I'm waiting. Again, we can't quantify that risk, right? So, what happens if Congress were to make, to your benefit, if Congress were to make adjustments to reduce payouts across the board? Congress says, we got to fix Social Security. We can't pay out as much as we promised. You guys know this. We can afford to pay 75 cents on the dollar of what we promised. What happens to your benefit if you're on claim, or if you've been waiting for a claim? Goes down. Probably, you know, they'd like to not lower the ones that are currently filing, you know, maybe they'll do some hodgepodge of that sort of thing, but in the end, that's how that would work.
Isaac, that's what I wanted to ask you. When they do this sort of thing, because they keep saying that it's going broke and so on, would it be safe to, not it's safe, but is it probable that they are going to leave the people alone that already have the Social Security and make the changes on the people who don't have it yet?
I would hope so. A lot of people who I know, sometimes Social Security is their only income in retirement, and it's barely enough in those cases, right? So, knowing how, you know, the tone of government's been, I wouldn't be surprised if they did adjust others, there might be some means testing involved, you know, where they'd say, well, you can afford to have less, so we'll reduce yours, but we won't reduce this individual because they have less income, and whatever their guidelines would be. If they impacted once we're on claim, there probably would be some means testing there. That would be ideal anyways in that case. But even more ideal would be say, okay, we're gonna leave alone folks that are claiming on claim right now, because we can't just whack their incomes like that, but we're gonna change everybody who hasn't gone on claim yet. There may even be kind of a phase in, you know, where you would say, okay, well, the ones who are really, really close, we'll discount them only 10. The ones who are further back, we'll discount them more. Or we'll discount them more and push back their age. Or we'll do all that and raise taxes, right? That's the other reason that it's kind of just politically sensitive, is that one easy fix is just more taxes, right? Take the income limit off of Social Security taxes. That would be something that would generate some substantial additional revenue to the system. And we'll talk a little about why there's a limit on what's taxed. So, let's look at this scenario. We have an individual who is thinking about delaying payments, okay? So, their full benefit is $1,000 a month. Okay, so this individual is going from 66 to 70, right? So they're going from this 1,000 to the 1,320. Make sense? So, how much is the individual not collecting every month while they're waiting to turn 70? 100,000, right? Okay. And from 66 to 70, how many months will elapse while they're waiting to turn 70?
12 months.
Per year.
6 to 7 years.
48 months, right? 12 months a year times 4 years, right? 66 to 70. Okay? So, this, in financial planning terms, would be what we call a really simple cost of waiting. I wouldn't consider it a true opportunity cost, because then you'd look at maybe some return on investment opportunity cost as well. But this is how much money you don't collect while you're waiting to collect more money. Make sense? Okay. That doesn't. Who said that? I like that. 48,000. So that's the price tag, right?
Yeah.
So what I want to know is it worth it? How long should I? When will I get the money back? Well, the good news is if I do wait, instead of getting 1,000, I'm going to get $1,320 a month, right? So we've got the $1,320 for the delayed retirement. We've got the 1,000 that we collected, or that we would have been collecting, or still collecting at age 70. And so we're getting an additional $320 a month by waiting. Okay? So, how long until I get back my money that I didn't get when I first was eligible, my full retirement age, to file for benefits? How long does it take to get back my $48,000? There you go. Yeah, you're sitting close enough to read.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. So we take the $48,000 divided by 320. Now, why don't we divide it by 1320?
Because all the difference is 3.
I'm only getting 320 more, right? I'm still getting 1,000 under my old benefit. And that's Engineer Martin here. What do you got? Same as we got on the slide, hopefully. 150 months.
10 years.
Divided by 12 is how long?
At least 10.
Yeah, a little bit, exactly. So, yeah, it's 12 and a half years. We've got that down here. Thankfully, I didn't get that part up on the slide already for you. 12 and a half years, right? So we divide that by 12, and that gives us 12.5 years. Okay, so I will get that money back one day. What age will I be when I get back all the money I didn't get while I was waiting to get more money?
82 and a half.
82 and a half. Excellent. And what are you going to buy with all that extra money when you're 82 to 83 years of age?
Diapers.
Depends. Depends what you got to buy. So, a lot of folks practically would rather have that money earlier on in their retirement when they would utilize it, even though, yes, you will finally start profiting at about 83 years of age if you were delaying from 66 to 70 filing your benefit.
Can I ask one question too?
Yes, sir.
You were talking about, I forget the word that you used for it, but Social Security, everybody's paid into it. We're paid into
Right.
it. So why is it like putting on Social Security a gift? I don't understand that.
Well, it's like you pay federal taxes every year, right?
Yeah, you don't get.
What are you entitled to from that?
Nothing.
Nothing. You're entitled to give the government what you owe, and that's it. And they spend it how they choose, not how you would choose, right? Does logic and reason have anything to do with it? Does sound principles of personal finance have anything to do with it?
It's fair.
Absolutely not, right? Because the government does as it will with your money. They have the power of the pen and the power of the prison, right? Those two.
They raided the lockbox at a certain point, right?
Right.
And when that happened, then it wasn't a secure
Yeah.
system anymore.
Exactly. They kind of broke the seal on it. Did have a surplus. plenty of
Anybody
funding.
else would go to jail for doing that, but not the government.
Normally, if a trustee, you're a lawman, right? A legal authority.
Yes, sir.
If a trustee were to misappropriate funds from a trust, would that be legal?
No way.
No. Would that be criminal activity?
Very much.
Yes. That'd be called misappropriation of funds, right? So it's a form of theft, right? But when you do it with the law behind you, then it's okay, right? So I don't know if it's okay, but nothing, you can riot and protest and write letters, that's pretty much what you can do. And there may be some of that if they, were dramatic changes. So it's really easy to determine when you should file for Social Security. Financial planning in retirement is really, really easy as long as you know the answer to just one question. What question is it?
When am I gonna die?
When will I die? Only problem is that's the hardest question to answer, right? Nobody knows, and that's where the challenge comes in. Otherwise, it's all math from there. We just figure it out. You should do it early, you should go late, etc. So, now let's look at an early retirement versus a late retirement. And here the difference is a bit more dramatic. Okay, at early retirement, I'm only getting $750. At late retirement, I'm getting $1320. Okay? Now, how many months will I collect my early retirement payment before I turn 70?
96 months, right?
Look at you, the human calculator. You get a Benjamin for that one. Multiply anything by 12. Have you ever worked in the insurance industry?
No.
Okay, good. All right, you're right. 96 months, right? 8 years times 12. Okay, so how much money did we leave on the table? This is a little harder one.
I think you never do it.
That would all depend on, I mean, if you're still well-bodied and working, you're not really leaving money on the table.
How's that?
Because you're still getting a full wage from your work.
Right, but you can collect Social Security and
While you
work.
work?
Yeah.
Percent.
Did you know that?
No.
So how would you like a raise? So if you've lost money, you've lost money.
How long I gotta be?
62. Something to live for.
I'll
For
vote
you,
and convince you not.
69. Because you look like you may be under the age of 60 presently. All right. So how much money have I left on the table? A little bit more in this case. 72,000. So I've got a proposition for you. Give me $72,000 today. And in 8 years, I'll start giving you approximately $580 a month.
Keep the rest.
Sound good? I don't know. You're right. So you have kind of a confused look, and you're right. You're just like, I'm not sure if that's a good deal or not a good deal. Right? Okay. Well, we'll look at it. All right? So now, I am going to collect a larger check. Okay? Nope. Sorry, I messed up. 570, right? Not 580? 7. Did I do it right? Okay. I didn't go through the current education system. I don't know the new. I think it's kind of like if you took the touch points and put them in an equation, so that you could add 2 plus 2. That's what I'm hearing. That I'm going to know soon enough. My first one's getting ready for kindergarten soon. So I get $570 a month extra, right? So now what I need to know is when do I get back the money that I didn't get while I was waiting to get more money later, right? And what do we get there? It's probably up here. Takes us 126 months.
10.5.
Which, if we divide that by years again,
10.5.
or by months, we get 10 and a half years, right? That one we probably didn't need to look on the chart, but. Okay? So now, how old will I be when I get back the money, finally the last dollar that I didn't get while I was waiting to get more money?
81 and a half.
Good. I'll be 80 and a half. 70 will be when I start that first one.
Yeah.
80 to 81. Okay? A little bit better break even, right? Basically 1 year better, right? 2 year better break even. But still kind of up there, right? And still maybe not quite having as much fun as I was when I was 66. Right?
True.
But God willing, if you are, fantastic, right? And there are lots of arguments, reasons why you might need that extra $570 a month. you know, when you hit 80, but it's mostly probably gonna be for the benefit of the medical profession. Right, like I might need it to pay these extremely high costs of care, things like that. Good. All right, what questions, if any, do you have over that so far? Does that give you any insight into how you're thinking about when to file?
Are you going to talk about how it affects you if you are earning an income? Because
Yes.
some people I've talked to, they've said, well, I'm not gonna start early because it'll affect my income. I can only earn so much.
Correct.
And what is that limit? Is it the same for everybody? You can only earn so much money once you take on Social Security? How much is it?
That's correct. And so what we'll do, I'll touch on this, and the next slide is gonna be your answers. So, and your question happens to be the next slide, so
Okay.
it's like he's working for us.
I haven't.
Although he doesn't have the presentation memorized, I'm certain of it. So. It's good timing, thank you. So how do wages work? Like, you're not alone feeling surprised when I say, you don't have to actually retire to claim your Social Security benefits. You're like, what do you mean? It's supposed to be for retirement, right? I have to quit working to get them. No, you have to hit a certain age to get them. And you have to have paid in a certain amount to get them. Okay? So, if you're under full retirement age, which is that FRA, that's 66 to 67 years of age, depending on when you're born, earnings from work will reduce your benefit. They may or may not eliminate it during those years, depending on how much earnings you have, okay? After you've reached full retirement age, your wages will not impact your benefit.
So only
Okay.
from, say, 62 to whatever.
66 or 67. That's the
That,
only time your wages impact your benefit. So there is a point at which I'm gonna tell you, don't bother filing, you're not gonna get anything. You make too much. Okay, so we're just gonna look at the 66 to 70 when to file, in your case. Okay, because then your wages will not impact your Social Security payouts. Okay? So, the other thing to know is that wages for many folks, maybe they earn over the amount that they get some reduction, but it doesn't reduce all their benefits. They haven't forfeited the money that they didn't get paid from the reduction. It's kind of like they did partially deferred their benefit. Okay, so it prorates some credits forward until they hit full retirement age. Okay, so you haven't lost it. Okay, so how does working affect my benefits? Before full retirement age, this is a little more specific. You can earn $16,920 for 2017. This changes a little bit, goes up every year or two with no impact to your benefit. Okay? So, first 17 you make, kind of like a tax exemption, does not affect your Social Security benefit at all.
does that apply to each married person individually?
Some important things here. Yes, it's tax per Social Security number, basically. And these are earned income. Your dividends, your corporate profit shares, your whatever it may be, pensions, do not impact your Social Security. These are W-2, 1099 probably if they're wages from work. Going to a job, making a paycheck.
Clarify that, so that your pension does not affect Social
Correct.
Security.
It is considered unearned
Okay, so
income.
it's just some other job that you would do.
That's right.
Okay.
You gotta be punching a clock somewhere or earning a salary.
One other thing, IRA withdrawals.
Do not impact it either. Right.
1099?
1099s, if they're for interest or dividends, don't impact it. If they're from self-employment, would impact it. So, just think of earnings from work or wages. Okay? Wages is really probably the best way to think.
Last question before you go, and that's
Yeah.
taxable income. So based off the tax structure, you've only, you might have gained, let's say 30K to keep a low number, but
Mhm.
based on taxes in which you deducted, let's say, okay, based on those earnings, taxable earnings, I'll only earn 10K or 5K.
Right, like I put half of it into a 401k or something.
Yeah,
like
something of that nature.
that. No.
Doesn't work.
Nice try though. I like how you're thinking, but they already thought of
Just
that.
want to make sure I can articulate it to people.
You're right, you're right. No, it's your total wages, your total income, basically what would be considered your social
Pre-tax.
security taxable wages. When you're looking at your W-2,
Uh-huh.
you've got the social security taxable, then you've got the other taxable wages. Social security's on every dollar, basically. Other income taxes are on net dollars, net of social security taxes, but also net of 401k contributions, health insurance contributions, all those Section 125 or cafeteria plan deductions that you would have, your pre-tax benefits from work. Okay, so social security earnings test here will be based on those social security taxable wages, kind of before anybody else takes money out.
But if you earn income and you don't have an IRA at work, but you had to take a deduction and make a contribution to your IRA,
It'll lower your federal taxes, but it'll still, your wages will still count against your social security earnings limits. So think of it pretty much every dollar you make, basically. Except for the ones social security took out to pay into the system. They don't hit you for that one, so that's good.
Now, I think if we go back to the married couple, if a wife's making, let's say she is making 16,000.
She's making 16.
Well, she can draw full amount with no reductions.
She'll have
even
no
though her
earnings
husband may be
reduction.
making a much higher amount.
Yes, so
So if a wife is making the smaller amount, or the husband.
either one, yeah.
They could go ahead and draw on their the spouse's wage wouldn't affect. the-
Correct. It's not household earnings, it's all on an individual basis. Okay, so your work, your wages from work impact your social security check. And that's it. Okay? Your unearned income does not impact it, your spouse's income does not impact it. Okay?
So how does it, okay, let's say you retire early and you can only earn the 16,000, whatever.
Uh-huh.
How, if you're still, let's say, okay, I should maybe put it this way, you're still working,
Mhm.
but you get your social security and you do the 16,000, whatever. What about the money from your job that you have that's going to social
You're
security?
paying taxes on it, yeah.
But do you, I mean, if you don't make that 16,000, will your payments go up on your
Yes.
social security?
So while you're still working, you're still paying in credits to the social security system. So you're actually still increasing your income figure while you're working. There is a cutoff. I have a lady who works still. She's like 87 this year, I think.
Wow.
And there's an age at which they quit bumping it up. She still works, earns wages. Her social security check has gone up every year as she's, other than cost of living, as her lifetime earnings have increased that are paid in. So the formulation changed and her benefit would go up every year. And then one year it didn't anymore. And she called and said, what happened? And there's a cutoff age. It's like 85, 86. I could find out for you specifically. But so up to a point, you continue to pay in taxes, you continue to increase your benefits even while you're on claim.
but it goes on your total income, lifetime income, or I thought it was the top 35?
Yeah, so it goes into your lifetime earnings. The formula is basically looking at your lifetime earnings, credits paid in, your tax you paid in count as credits, and then they apply an age factor to you, and that determines your monthly payment.
But the statement that you get that says X at 62, X at 66,
Right.
that's based on the top 35
It's based on what you've currently paid in there.
lifetime.
Yeah, but it is lifetime. If you look back on your earnings record, as long as you've been reporting it as income, it shows up on it. If you've been paying social security taxes on it, it shows up on it. There are some folks don't pay social security taxes.
Now, can I ask you, on my total W-2 this year, they took my medical insurance off before I was taxed.
On
Is-
federal basis,
Yes.
yes.
So instead of the 1099 saying the extra 8,000, it was minus the 8,000, and that's what I did my tax base on. So does that mean?
So you're self-employed?
No,
Okay, so you got a W-2,
I did.
right. And you'll see two wage figures there. You'll see, first one will be social security wages, second one will be federal wages.
Oh, okay.
Social security wages is what social security is based on, federal income tax is what the federal one.
Oh.
The federal one's what the federal income tax is
Okay.
based on. So you don't pay federal tax on social security taxes, essentially, if you look at it that way.
But you'll get credited your full amount Not less than your 8,000.
Yeah, the health insurance won't impact what you paid into Social Security or what you reported to them as your lifetime earnings,
Okay.
okay?
You don't get to deduct it from your social security.
But some folks who are self-employed, they can like voluntarily pay into Social Security. If they don't, they're not accruing benefits. Some folks have served, like for the railroad, certain federal jobs where they didn't pay Social Security taxes. Instead, they were funded by another pension plan that's in lieu of Social Security. They may not have any Social Security taxable wages. But it is possible to start collecting from those benefits and then go back to work and start paying enough Social Security qualifying quarters and credits to begin accruing a benefit, if that applies to anybody here, I don't know. Good. Any other questions on that topic? Great.
Now, you're not limited to earnings. You can go ahead and earn more, Eileen, than 16.9. Nobody's telling you you can't. It's just your social security payment could be reduced or deferred.
Yes.
So don't worry about, you can't earn more.
Is that for every extra dollar you make over the 16,920?
Every two.
Every two. So
I'm not sure.
as we're looking at it, that's right here. So your benefit goes down $1 for every $2 of wages. Yeah, over that 17,000. So if I made, let's just call this 17. If I made 20, I made 3,000 extra dollars. I would reduce my Social Security payout by 1,500 for that year.
Okay.
Okay, and they go on a monthly basis. Is how they look at that. Any other questions on that? We'll go on to the year that I hit full retirement age. During that year, I was part early, part on time, right? So in that case, I can have up to 44,880 with no impact to my benefit for that year. And then my benefit during that year only is reduced by $1 for every $3 of wages over this approximately 45,000. It's just like a transitionary payment during that 1 year. Make sense? I mean, it doesn't make sense, but understand? Okay?
Calendar year or?
Calendar year. Calendar year, yeah. So, and that's how they'll look at that. And they ask you that when you're filing. What source of income do you have? What do you expect to receive every month? And they reconcile it over time, in case you didn't give them the right answers. Or your wages went up or something. Okay. And then after full retirement age, earnings do not affect your benefit. Okay? So, there, make as much as you want, collect full benefits. You're just looking at the break even on the full retirement versus late retirement age and deciding how you want to work that part of your plan.
I got a question on that. So you're saying that like my birthday's in April.
Yes,
So if I turn 66.2, which would be then in June,
yes.
if I make over $44,000 the rest of that year, or the whole year, I gotta pay back money?
They'll normally try to figure that out up front and not pay it to you to begin with, but potentially, yes, if you didn't get it, your income stated correctly to them, and then when they kind of audit it, then potentially they will either withhold some benefits or have you pay it back.
For those 8 months. And then in the following.
And you won't pay back all of it, of course, but, and really what they do is adjust your benefit to kind of reconcile it until it's all fixed,
But after 66.2, I should be able to make everything I want to, right?
as much as you want.
But they take you that last year, then, is that what you're saying? Because if I
In that-
turn 66.2, and
What's really
June-
nice is if your birthday's January 1, and you can file
Right, but-
January 1, because clean calendar year, clean full earnings. For most of us, it's not that way, so we got this little transitionary period. In which case, if my individual wages are under 45, don't worry about it. If they're over 45, there's something to think about there.
Well, I mean, really, because that delays my retirement for 6 months if I want to.
Yeah, you may choose to go into another calendar year. Normally, don't let this reduction, because let's look at it this way. Let's say I said, okay, I'm gonna give you $3, but you need to give one back. Do you want the $3? The proper question you should answer with is, how many times can we do this?
I understand.
Right? Yeah, so it's, you know, you gain 3, you lose 1, you get 2,
I'm
that's
giving you
good.
this and then reaching in your back pocket and taking this out.
Well, that's not new, you should be used to that by now.
I'll never be used
You're
to
almost
that.
retirement age, you know how the US works.
I'll
Hey, but
never be
Isaac,
used to
if they do-
Somebody's gotta fund these things.
Isaac, if they do take that dollar that he's talking about
Yeah.
back, they will give it back to him later.
That's right, yeah.
It'll be
It's
piled
just
on
kind of
top
a
of it.
deferred income
It's
payment.
not that they've taken it back until later.
Yeah, they've withheld it for a future date.
You're deferring
Mhm. Partial
it. You'll
deferral.
still get it.
My birthday's the end of October,
You probably wanna file January, just keep it clean, you know,
because, and then 66 is 2 months is the end of December.
yeah.
I'm clear.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you do like January after you've already hit full retirement age, you know, because you'd hit your full retirement age in October. If you go into January, and again, remember, depending on where your wages are at, if you're not over that, doesn't matter, don't worry about it. Only think about it if you're making 45 or better during that year of earnings from work, not total stuff you're living on. Right. Is that more clear? Okay, good. We talked about that additional earnings would increase your benefit for later if you continue to work while you're earning Social Security. Okay, so, let me just check here if I have, I want to get ahead of myself. Okay, we'll talk here in a couple of slides on the maximum Social Security benefit and that sort of thing, so I'll just stick with the script. So, now we've talked about the 3 steps for figuring when to claim, or to help you determine at least the cost of waiting, right? Oh, and I do want to give you one little secret. And this is public information. You can find it on the SSA.gov site. You said you were registered for it, right? And you want to look at the OASDI actuary report. It tells you when they will go broke. It tells you when they will start turning upside down. It tells you how much money they can currently afford to pay. Are any of you familiar with what an actuary is? A guy that's really, really good at math, okay? Doing really complex calculations, basically mostly involving people's life expectancies and probabilities of things happening, okay? And they do this across, you know, large numbers. And one secret that I found in looking at the actuary's report for the life expectancies of the population is, what do you think is the difference between the payment they expect to pay you at your life expectancy from 66 on and the payment they expect to pay you from 70 on? If you take that full retirement benefit, live to the actuarial life expectancy according to the Social Security actuary, or you
Should
take,
come out even.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be any different.
they actually plan to pay you the exact same amount in both cases. But if you happen to pass from 66 to 70, you get what we call in the actuarial business a windfall. Right? This one didn't make it. We don't have to pay him anything.
The Social Security
Right.
is the windfall.
Yeah. For the fund, for a pension, Social Security is basically a pension. That's sort of a windfall. You know, a big loss is when somebody lives far beyond that life expectancy, where they pay out far more than they expected. And that's part of what's compounding the problems now. Life expectancies are increasing beyond what they expected. And just because you're not dead when they expected you to be dead, does that mean they get to quit sending you checks? No. They're not like the life insurance companies that say, well, you may not be dead, but you're dead to us. Here's your money. Congratulations, you won. Right? So that's kind of how that works on Social Security and on pensions in general. And that problem, the problem of life expectancies, is confounding pensions all over the world. Private ones, municipal ones, Social Security ones. I can't hardly think of one that's funded adequately. Very, very few.
That in investment returns.
Yeah, well, because they're still assuming 7% returns, but they're making 2s and 4s. But, you know, they haven't. And so what do? Get more aggressive. Let's compound our losses. All right, so yeah, they get more aggressive, and then bad market comes, and people are getting sequence of returns problems, drawing the money out at bad stock prices, and gets even deeper. So ideally, you want to fund your pension with nothing but the highest quality bonds and maturities and expectancies that match up with those obligations you have. But if you do that, then you're only making, 2-3% return on investment. And that really doesn't make my insolvency look very good here. I have to collect a lot more money in order to do that. So that's kind of the problem that all the plans have. So this ongoing, low interest rates has been, we've been living with it for about 10 years now. And they have still not changed those assumptions. They're still saying, it's going back to 4 on a 30-year treasury or whatever. And perhaps it will, but the government has a little conflict of interest with that, right? Because that's also what they have to pay on the debt that they already can't afford to pay, that they have to borrow money to pay the interest on every month, right? So there's a little conflict of interest there. But anyways, that's a tangent I shouldn't get on to. Okay, so when you're looking at Social Security planning, when I look at it in a nutshell, I find it comes down to, would you rather spend your money early and have a high degree of dependence on the government later to provide for you, or would you rather spend more of their money early, retain more of your money? Because let's say I'm going to retire at the same date either way. What I'd say classical Social Security planning says is spend all your money and live on the government for the rest of your life. I don't know about you, that makes me a little uneasy. I kind of like my security blanket, and I'd rather spend their money and hold on to mine if I can. So I think, if you defer a lot, you're going to use more of your money early on. You're probably going to pay more taxes because your IRA distributions and things like that are taxed at higher rates than Social Security. Social Security income is not even 100% taxable. Okay? So there's a number of issues that impact that. But again, if you tell me what day you're going to die, I'll tell you which one to choose. Let's see, we talked about the taxes. Okay, so spouses. Spouses can claim on your record or theirs if they're 62 or older. And your former spouse can too. And anybody here happen to be really smart and marry a really wealthy surgeon early on for at least 10 years and then divorce and marry the love of their life? You guys should have planned better. You got to start thinking about this early on in your 20s. Well, I didn't either. So, I've had clients say, I'm not giving that deadbeat whoever a dime. I protest. How do I stop this? The answer is what? You cannot. That's right. If you have multiple ex-spouses, they can all claim on your record. It doesn't impact your benefit, actually, surprisingly. So that's kind of a bizarre thing. But anyhow, if you don't like it, too bad. Okay? Why would my spouse claim on my record?
You made more money than.
Yeah, if I made more money, her check would be higher claiming mine than hers, then she will claim on my earnings history instead of hers. Okay? There used to be a bunch of cute Social Security claiming tricks, these file and suspends and loopholes and stuff, and a whole industry of financial planners sprung up and taught everybody how to exploit all these loopholes. Guess what happened to loopholes? They're closed. They got rid of them, right? There's a couple of exceptions. Perhaps if you were born in just the right moon at the right time, you may still be just before they phase out. But for the most part, basically, you don't get to mess with the system. When you file, you're deemed, it's called, to have filed for the greatest benefit that you're available to at that time, and it's done.
So the spousal benefit, it goes up to half of what your husband's benefit could be, right?
Correct.
Yes, the highest.
So if half of your benefit is greater than their full benefit,
Right.
then they may want to claim yours instead. And actually, Social Security will deem them to have filed for your half instead of their full.
They can, if she starts drawing hers, then she can't get the spousal benefit later on, is that correct? It's like Patty retired at 62.
she could, if her spousal benefit was to eventually become larger,
Yeah, it is.
because you had, say, delayed your filing, and she filed for hers early, and then later filed for yours, because yours, half of yours had become greater than hers, then she can adjust that.
Does it, will she get half if like she waits till, if I wait till I'm 66 to retire, which is my full retirement age?
They're still gonna
Or will she
prorate
be-
the
she'll be
spouse's
reduced
benefit
because of
by,
62 file, starting to file at 62, hers will be reduced by 25, half of mine will
Yeah.
reduce by 25%.
essentially, it has to get, if she retired early, it essentially has to get to the point to where a quarter of your benefit is greater than hers. Because she's gonna still get the discount for filing early, it's already gonna be discounted 50% for being a spousal benefit, and so she's down to about 25% if she retired early and is looking at a spousal benefit. Which is still possible. Some spouses have no earnings rate. Some are getting $100 a month or whatever, so.
And then is that locked in for life?
This is, and let's see if we touch on this in the slide for survivors. Yeah, let's touch on this real quick. Survivors, this is a really important thing to understand if you are married under Social Security, is how the survivor benefit works. And when one spouse passes away, you're gonna get the greater of your benefit or theirs. Okay? You're gonna lose a check. What they're gonna do to mitigate the loss is get rid of the smaller check. Okay? So a lot of folks will ask, well, what would I need life insurance for when I retire? Well, many of them are living on both checks, right? So if one of those disappeared suddenly, it could create some financial hardships. And so that would be a reason that they might want to have something that lasts longer than when they're 65 and kids are out of the house and stuff's all paid for. Okay? So just something to chew on, but also take into account as you're looking at when would we claim, when would my spouse claim, things like that. And that's one of the benefits of my spouse delaying their filing. Let's see here. So, did you know Social Security has a maximum monthly benefit? It is $2,687 this year. Okay?
Yeah, all right.
That's right. Maximum monthly benefit at full retirement age. Okay? No matter how much money you made, this is the most you'll collect for an individual Social Security check at full retirement age. I'd say the average for many folks probably more in the 11 to 14 range per month. Why is that? Why would there be a cap on the benefit?
Well, supposedly there was a cap on the contribution.
That's right. Not 100% of your income is necessarily subject to Social Security taxes. There's a maximum income that's subject to Social Security taxation. That number is 106. 116.
And that's been adjusted since the 1980s.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it goes up every year. The max goes up every year. The income ceiling goes up every year. This is one of the things in our kind of, I feel like sometimes we're getting a little bit of an eat the rich mentality in the United States today. This is one of those things that is in grave danger probably, because a real big way to raise a lot of funds for Social Security would be to say, they don't need that much, but they can afford the taxes, so we'll take the cap off the taxes, but we'll leave the cap on the payments. That'll help shore it up real nicely, right? Everybody will say, yeah, eat the rich. What'd they ever do? Create jobs, pay 98% of the taxes, get some more, right? I love a statistic I read, just brief tangent. 66% of the population believes that they pay too much taxes. What percentage of the population pays taxes?
66%.
Like 49%.
Oh, 49% pay?
66% pay too much, but 49% pay taxes. The rest get it all back, plus some. Maybe even get some federal gifts at the end of the year. Non-taxable gifts, by the way. Normally, if we would have a gain, we'd pay taxes on it, but not if it comes through the tax code. Anyhow, okay, gotta get off that soapbox too. Keep going a while. Okay, so, any questions on spousal benefits? Okay. So, from here, what do we recommend? Speak with a trusted local advisor, if you can find one. We'd like you to come see us, that's part of why we come here and talk about it, but if not, that's okay, find somebody trustworthy to deal with. I like to say, how do you know if you have a good professional or a bad professional? You hire them to do some work for you, right? If it's bad, then you know that's a bad professional. But it's not like a painter where I can just, hang a painting in the window and look and say, oh, that looks good, right? So that's kind of the trick when you're hiring advisors, attorneys, doctors, mechanics. Mechanics maybe a little less so, but it's hard to know hard to window shop for professionals, accountants that have people who work in intangibles. You can't just say, oh yeah, that's a very nice house you built. I think I'd like one of those. Looks like you know how to build a house, right? Determine how much income you'll need. That's part of what we assist with if you're not sure. Inventory your assets. Figure out what means do I have to live on to help subsidize those income needs. How could they be positioned to generate more income for me? Determine who in your household, if there's more than one claimant, or even if there is just one, who should claim and when should they claim, okay? Like, kind of to your point, Terry, if you have one spouse that is under the exempt amount of income, the other one makes enough that it would wipe out their income from Social Security, then the one who can claim and have no impact or benefits, or his, should claim when they can, right? And one thing about when not to even bother thinking about it, just briefly here, 2687 is the max benefit, right? If you retire early, your benefit goes down $1 for every $2 you make above, say, 17,000, right? So, that's not right. 53.
Yeah.
5374. Monthly income, which is about 60,000, 63,000, almost 64. And then remember, I've got plus my 17,000 a year. That's essentially exempt. So if I make like 77 to 78,000 a year, don't bother thinking about it until you're 66. You're not going to get anything out of filing early, right? So that's that cutoff point that if I'm talking with somebody about Social Security planning, if I find out their individual wages are at that point that they're more than twice their benefit after you subtract the 17,000 out, don't bother filing. Okay? If you get 1,000 a month and you make 41,000, don't bother filing because you're just going to reduce the payment anyways. Okay? But we can help you figure that out if you're not sure. Some other questions to ask. Do you want more income now or later? How do you feel about that one? Do you want more money now or later?
Aren't you gonna need it when you're older for the care? Because
Well, the nursing home would appreciate it very much. I know that's correct, Yeah. The cost of that care is unbelievable.
yes, it is.
7,000-8,000 a month, no problem. Right?
Yes.
If you don't have the money to pay, what happens?
Medicaid.
Somebody else pays, right? So if you've been really diligent, you made sure you had lots of money to pay, what happens to it? It goes to the esteemed medical profession, right? It goes to these lovely facilities with some excellent rent, some really high dollar per square foot real estate, right? So, yes and no. I mean, yes, you're gonna need it, but is that how you wanna spend it? Or would you rather spend it on vacation when you're 63?
Who goes from being like this down to welfare? I mean, really, when you're getting old?
And there are, I typically find stuff like that, long-term care insurance, $100, $200 a month, real easy way to address that.
Okay.
And then spend your money. Take a little bit of it out, take some of this $750 early, use $200 of it for your policy, and take the other, keep the change, the $500, and let the insurance company pay the nursing home later, and you enjoy your money now. You know, so you'll find that, you know, one thing that's really good for leaving money to beneficiaries, life insurance. One thing that's really good for paying nursing home bills is nursing home insurance.
Is
Okay.
what?
Long-term care insurance.
Okay.
It can be anti-nursing home insurance. Most folks don't want to go to a facility. They want to get care at home. And you can get care at home, you can private pay it, in which case it costs more like $10,000 or $12,000 a month, which is why most folks say, forget that, I'm checking in. Or their family, does, one of the two. Right, so that was kind of how my grandma was. She had nice means and she was able to stay home and to pay, and she wanted to do that, and then she called the facility and they said that'll be $10,000 a month, and she called the home up and said, when can I check in? Because she's, I like to say, you don't get to be rich throwing away your money, right? Okay. So, do you want to wait? I think this is a really important question. When it comes to retirement, it's time to start just learning how and when to enjoy life, right? Not that you weren't enjoying it before, but do I want to wait? All that does not matter if it's just time for me to retire. I can't keep working, or I just do not want to. And when will I die? Right? That one I don't know. Some people have better guesses. I know I have a lot of people tell me, though, if I knew I would have lived this long, I would have taken better care of myself. Okay, so last brief discussion of income tools. There are three major manufacturers: banks, the market, which is a primary or secondary auction, and insurance companies. Those are the three places that you get your income tools from. Banks make savings accounts, certificates of deposit. These pay interest. Certificates do. Savings accounts don't pay much interest these days, but you need to have it, right? So that you don't, so that you have money that you don't have to put on your credit card. The market. There's a primary market and secondary market. Most folks invest in the secondary market, okay? Commonly called the stock exchange or the bond market, okay? They buy and sell stocks and bonds predominantly. Bonds pay something called a coupon. It's an interest payment. Stocks pay something called a dividend. And if you do really good, maybe you even get a capital gain. But you gotta sell it when it's up, not when it's down, okay? Insurance companies create immediate annuities and deferred annuities. These are typically used when somebody elects a pension option from their plan. It may not be done, it may be done with an insurance company, may not, but the way the payouts are structured is the same. If you don't mind, quick survey. How many here are covered by a pension plan? Okay, good. Now, who here has not got a pension then? Okay, good. So, I almost need to break this in half, because those of you that don't have a pension, you're going to need some more of these, right? Those of you that do, you're fortunate. Pension plans can be worth millions of dollars in retirement savings, literally. You know, when you look at, especially in this rate environment, you guys want to wrestle for it, or? I'm almost out. Last one, there was so few people with pensions, I almost had to use my whole box on the no pensions question. So anyhow, yeah, a pension's a tremendous help to your retirement plan. You know, when you look at, for instance, in a 3% interest rate, $1 million will generate you, if you're living off the interest, $30,000 of income. Right? You say, well, I want 60. The average, you know, American household's living off like 55,000. That means they need $2 million, right? But if I've got a pension that's paying me $30,000 a year or $60,000 a year, that plan may be worth $1 to $2 million essentially. Okay, so it's expensive to self-insure retirement income. one thing I like to be clear about when we look at these is these are tools. I call them tools for a reason. Anybody have a toolbox? Yeah, most of you? Okay. You have various tools in there? Right. What are the bad tools in there? No? I mean, maybe some junky screwdriver or something. What's the best tool in your toolbox?
The one you need.
It depends on the job, doesn't it? Depends a lot on the job. Like, have you ever tried to pull a screw out with a hammer? It's tough. It can be done. Not good for the wood, not good for the screw, right? So the point is, all these tools were created to do different jobs. There's not a good tool or a bad tool, or there's the best tools for the job, depending on what you're trying to do, okay? And so our job, if you look at us, we're kind of like the hardware store, okay? We have everything. We are to help you pick the right tool for the job. The best tool for you is going to be the one that's made for that specific need that you're trying to address. And what we need to do is take you to the right aisle, get you pointed there, maybe even show you how to use the tools, and say this is what you're looking for in this section. Because otherwise there are literally tens of thousands of mutual funds, hundreds of thousands of stocks, hundreds of bond market is even bigger, okay? And then countless insurance products and bank products. It's a big universe. It's an overwhelming tool store. And we want to take you in and say, I think based on what you're trying to do, this is the aisle that you should be looking in. Here's how you use it if you have questions. One thing, a word of caution, I want to warn about alternative investments. Alternative investments, they're commonly called, can be dangerous, okay? They're typically private. They're typically in that primary market. They're not bought and sold on a secondary market yet. They may not have liquidity, typically don't, okay? Some can be good, some can be bad, but the only thing that's really guaranteed in most primary offerings is that there's one party that's going to make money on it for certain. Who is that? The organizer of the offering. Yeah, the organizer of the offering. Okay, so you got to be careful with them. They're not all bad, but there's a lot to read on them, and you need to be very careful. They're typically made for sophisticated investors who are considered big enough to make their own financial mistakes. So, in our opinion, when it comes to income, vanilla is good. Kind of sticking with the ordinary tools is good. So the bank accounts are typically insured by FDIC. Savings pay a variable rate of interest. Rates are typically lower than CDs, but higher than checking accounts. The beauty of savings is access to money. All of it, anytime you want. That's the best characteristic of a savings account. And it's a very important one. Certificate of deposit, also known as a CD, pays a set rate of interest, pays it over a set period of time. If you draw it out prior to the end of that period, you forfeit 6 months interest on early withdrawal. Okay? But not bad. And, a great virtue of banks is that you're in one, right? You walk in, get your money, walk out. Not necessarily that way. It isn't that way. It was an insurance product or a brokerage product, investment product. So the market, the other second manufacturer. We have bond coupons and stock dividends. I'll give you a quick lesson in how these work. When you own a bond, you are a lender to a company, okay, or a creditor. When you own a stock, you're an owner. So I'm going to give you a real quick lesson why bonds are considered safer than stocks. If a company is struggling, who gets paid first? The creditors or the owners? Creditors. When the carcass is on the ground, who gets to eat first? The creditors or the owners? The creditors, right? If there's anything left, the owners can divide up whatever scraps are left. There probably isn't. That's why there's an insolvency. GM bondholders, GM stockholders, how much did they get? 0. GM bondholder, how much did they get? About 60 cents on the dollar. after liquidating all the hard assets of GM and paying off the obligations. So they weren't left empty-handed. A bond has a fixed rate called a coupon, declared when you buy it. The timing and the amount are certain. Dividends are declared generally quarterly by the board of directors, subject to company profits. We know what they declared last quarter. We don't know what they'll declare next quarter. You can look at the history, stuff like that, make educated guesses or assumptions, but dividends are not guaranteed in any way. Bonds, the principal or face amount of the bond is due back at maturity in full at a certain day in the future. Bonds are kind of nice, you know, I give you this much money, you give me back this much at this time, and meanwhile you send me this much at this time every time. If you don't, we call it due, and we send you into bankruptcy so we can get our principal back, or most of it. Stocks, there's no repayment date, right? The only way I get my money out of my stock is I sell my stock. And then I'm not getting my income anymore. Okay? Stocks and bonds, you can both sell pretty much any time, except when you really want to. Because guess what? Nobody else wants to buy what you're selling right now. Or if they do, it's at such a steep discount that they know they're going to make money out of it. And they happen to have a bunch of cash because they weren't invested with that cash at the time that that market became so unsavory. That's why, like at Berkshire Hathaway, they're sitting on $90 billion of cash right now. Right? He's losing some money by not investing that today, but not long term. Because they're looking to buy when the prices are more favorable. Both are subject to market risk. That market is the auction. Who's buying, who's selling, what's the price movement today that people are asking to get those transactions done. So you can pretty much always sell anything. The question is just what price. Okay? Bonds are subject to interest rate risk predominantly. So, you know, rates going up, kind of bad for bonds. If you have an old 2% bond and now I can buy a similar quality for 3, I don't want to pay you the same for the 2. Why not just go buy a new one for 3? So you discount a little bit until I'm making at least 3 or maybe a little better in order to get me to buy it. Okay? Both of these are really subject to company risk. You'd call it credit risk in the bond, company risk in the stock. Again, the rest of the company becomes worthless. And then management risk. Stocks, dividends are paid out of profits. If the company's not well run, there's not profits to pay dividends. Any questions over that? You guys understand the difference now? Good, good. Insurance companies, they make basically annuities for income. These are basically always done by life insurance companies, okay? The reason why, because they have those guys called the actuaries, whose job it is to figure out how long you're gonna live, and due to the life insurance product, they're uniquely qualified to build financial transactions around people's life expectancies, okay? And they have money, right? Those are two very important qualities. There's immediate annuities and deferred annuities. All annuities fall in one of those two categories, okay? Immediate annuity, I get an income paid at a set time, monthly, annual, quarterly, whatever it may be. It may be paid over my lifetime, a joint lifetime, or a fixed number of years, okay? They're gonna pay me principal and interest during that time. At the end of it, the money's exhausted or paid out in full. If you take a single life payout, this is like a pension. If you take that very highest payment you can possibly get, there's one big problem. It's based on your life only. So what happens if I take $100,000, I buy an immediate annuity, I take the highest possible life-only payout option, I collect one check and I die? What happens to the rest of the money? The insurance company gets what we call the actuarial windfall, right? So, very important that you work with somebody who knows what they're talking about. Because if you do it right, that will never happen to you in an immediate annuity. Because you make sure they're always obliged to pay back no less than your principal at worst. Okay? Unless you're just you on your own and you can't think of anybody you'd rather leave it to than the life insurance company. Maybe the IRS. I mean, given a choice between the two, then some folks might rather leave it on deposit with the insurance company. One drawback, there can be little to no principal access. If I call Social Security, or I call my pension plan, and I say, hey, I'd like a payday loan, how much can you advance to me? What are they gonna tell you? Well, in about 30 days, your next check will be due. I'll get that to you right on time, every time, that's it, right? Some do have some features for access, but think of them as illiquid, like a pension. A deferred annuity, you choose when to take income. You may take ordinary withdrawals. Interest and your principal can be used for income. You control the money. There may be fees for early withdrawal of principal. If you take out too much, you may pay some charges. And returns can be fixed or variable. Okay? Within the deferred, there's 3 flavors: fixed, fixed index, or variable. Okay? Variable means that I can take an income based on market performance, and the important thing about variable is it means it may lose value. My return is variable, so is my principal. It's in the market. Okay? Even though it's annuity, you're paying some insurance costs on what's really a bunch of mutual funds. They're not called mutual funds, they're called sub-accounts, but they're run by T. Rowe Price and whatnot. So, same things, they mimic actual mutual funds, and the main drawback to these is probably the cost. When you layer insurance costs on top of investment management fees and things like that. We talked about sub-accounts managed by investment management companies. There's fixed deferred annuities. These pay a set rate of interest for a set period of time. They're like a CD that way. So I get 3% for 10 years. I get 2.5% for 5. It's all. Interest paid monthly, compounds, you can take it, leave it in, whatever you want to do. Okay? That's a fixed type deferred annuity. Fixed indexed. Interest credits are based on the performance of an external index like the S&P 500 or the Dow. Rates are determined by the market, but money's not in the market. Okay? So they'll look and they'll say, okay, we'll give you 50% of what the S&P 500 gains this year. Okay, so you had 100K. The S&P went up 10%. You get half. So you gain 5%. Year one, for instance. Next year, S&P, bad bear market, loses 20%. Okay? This is where the insured, the not being in the market, comes in handy. Okay? Now, if you would just do this equation normally, you'd say, well, I got a negative 10, but it's interest that's credited can never be less than 0. Right? It's not really magical. They use stock options to make it happen and package it. We can unbundle it, but it costs you about 4 or 5% a year to build your own at home. So they deliver some pretty nice economies to you that way. So that allows you to participate in gains from the market, but not losses from the market. Okay? And again, some folks say, well, that sounds too good to be true. Probably is. We can unbundle it and go through it all and show you how it works. I tried to see if I could make one cheaper at home. Doesn't really work that way. They packaged it up institutionally, they're giving you a pretty good deal. So it uses ordinary financial instruments that you could buy in a brokerage account, but you get a lot better execution and lower cost. Okay, so we've covered everything there. Any questions come to mind? Great. Just a few words from our attorney that they asked us to share with you. Yeah. No FDIC, investing can lose money. We don't provide legal tax or accounting advice. We're financial advisors. We recommend you check our, I'd say my tax advice is worth what you paid for it. I'm not charging you. Try to save you my legal advice, right? Well, we run into a lot of those questions, and we can point you in the right direction. We have some experience with them, but it's not considered binding, right? we'll refer you to your attorney, CPA, things like that when it comes to those specific determinations. Okay. All right. Thank you all.